even on camera. As recently as Tuesday, she passed on a Thursday with incoming Prime Minister, now Prime Minister Liz Truss. That was amazing. I mean, think about it. If you're that ill, and there was news about her hands looking bruised and darker on the back of her hands, so clearly she'd been undergoing something. To bring yourself, just to get dressed in that kind of a state, never mind go before the cameras, pose for the photo op. I mean, to the end, she sacrificed self in the name of public service.
Yes, and she'd been trying to will her failing body into being strong enough to fly back down to London and be there to swear in the new members of the Privy Council. And her doctors, put their foot down and said, you can't do it. But that's the thing. That's what she'd been doing. I was going to say since 1947, when she gave her famous speech from Cape Town in South Africa, pledging her life to the service of the peoples of our great imperial family, she put it. But in fact, she'd been doing it since before then. I was talking to a friend of mine, a friend of mine's mother, who's a little old lady in her 90s, and she remembers being invited to tea with the Queen when Princess Elizabeth was a little, I think it was a 7-year-old girl, and they'd arranged a sort of photo op for her with other 7-year-old girls from around the empire, and my friend's mum got to go to that. I mean, the world is completely, so that would be like 90 years ago. Everything about the world has been utterly transformed since then, but she's still there.
Mm-hmm. Just a little sampling of today's papers. This is the Wall Street Journal for our YouTube audience. You can check this out. Queen Elizabeth II dies at 96, and this is a picture from her 1953 coronation, looking absolutely beautiful and spectacular. We'll be soon seeing one of those of King Charles. New York Times, Queen and Spirit of Britain, Elizabeth II, whose 7-decade reign linked generations, dies at 96. A country in turmoil enters a period of mourning and transition. A more recent photo of the Queen. And then the New York Post, pretty great. Just a picture of her when she's younger, a glamour shot, 1926 to 2022, the Queen. She looks spectacular. Right. She was a great beauty when she was younger. She doesn't get enough credit for her natural good looks. At a time when, a lot of women were doing a lot more than she was to try to stay good looking in the public eye. But she was a beauty inside and out, and that's what made the British people and people around the world fall in love with her.
Well, people thought at that time, particularly in the US, that it was actually her sister, Princess Margaret, who was the great beauty. And Princess Margaret was the one who led, I guess, a kind of Meghan Markle life. She was the one who would be going to parties with Frank Sinatra, and Frank and she would sing duets at those parties. So she was generally thought, Princess Margaret was generally thought to be the beautiful and glamorous one. But in fact, I think as you put it, I think the Queen had an inner beauty, and that beauty was basically her sense of service and her sense of duty. And so it meant that she didn't just think about frippery and surface things, but she had a deep, profound inner beauty and a sense of what she needed to be through all the decades.
Her elegance, her dignity, her supreme intellect, her education, all of it made her more attractive. And her reluctance to weigh in on anything controversial, right? Which, I mean, I'll get to that in 1 second with now King Charles, whether he shares the same, I think, astute reluctance as his mother. But there was a reason for that. Mark. Talk to us about when she took over the throne and what was happening, and basically why she was so savvy in not making that position political, what she was trying to do.
Well, she always took the position that the Queen does, and this is very different from her son. The Queen doesn't need to do, the Queen just needs to be. It's a system of government, And simply by the fact of her existence, she diminishes politicians, which I happen to think is a useful thing. There's a difference when there's a difference in the fact that Justin Trudeau is merely the first minister of a government. He's not the head of state. The fact of the Queen's existence diminishes politicians, which I think is of supreme importance these days. And the risk of sending all my conservative American friends bonkers, I think, is a defect of the American Constitution, which combines the head of state and head of government. She had firm views. She knew everything. I mean, I've had a couple of encounters from her, but they were private events. And so I got to have fairly extended exchanges and to be in the presence of extended exchanges. She knew everything about everywhere. She took her job seriously. And so if she's going to a literary reception for the Commonwealth Novel of the Year or whatever it is, and there's going to be some West African novelists there, she'd bone up on the West African literary scene. There wasn't anything she didn't know she didn't have a informed view of. And that actually, if you're just there for year in, year out. So if you can imagine, Harry Truman was a smart guy. If you can imagine that Harry Truman was still here now, 70 years later, how much experience and knowledge he would have, then that's actually the equivalent of what the Queen did.
Are you tired of feeling like someone's always watching you on the internet? Weird. Maybe advertisers know just a little too much about you. They've been spying on your conversations, or you're just concerned about the privacy of your identity. Using incognito mode will not solve the problem either. IPVanish VPN is here to protect your right to privacy and to help you stay anonymous online. IPVanish helps you safely browse the internet without exposing your private details to third parties like hackers or your ISP or advertisers. When you use IPVanish, all of your data is encrypted. This means that your private details, your passwords, your communications, your browsing history, none of that is anybody's business. All of that and more will be completely shielded from falling into the wrong hands. Even your physical location will be hidden. IPVanish is offering an incredible 70% off their yearly plan for our listeners right now with a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's like getting 9 months for free. IPVanish is super easy to use as well. All you have to do is tap one button and you are instantly protected. Take your privacy back today with a brand rated 4.6 out of 5 on Trustpilot. Go to ipvanish.com/Megyn and use that promo code MEGYN to claim your 70% savings. That's ipvanish.com/Megyn. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.